All right, guys, welcome in to Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. This is episode 27, recorded on May 25th, 2022. My name is Nicholas Hill, live as always from Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the United States. And joining me is Gus Tomazeli, live from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Gus, how are you doing on this Wednesday evening?
I'm doing great, doing great. A little chilly weather still here, but doing great and ready to get started. We have plenty of to talk, especially with our opening topic. It is going to be a very good debate, especially what happened in the world of college football. I heard from Colin Cowherd. I feel like, with all the controversy with Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher, college football season is already kind of started, but definitely I'm excited for tonight.
Absolutely. And obviously here in Tennessee has been rainy this week. Getting ready for the summertime pattern. I do want to start off this episode by acknowledging the victims of the Uvalde school massacre yesterday in Texas. Just unfortunately another one of these situations here in the U.S. that we just get stuck in an endless loop. I really hope we can figure out something to bring an end to this, but I don't know if that is possible. But it's sickening to see little kids be gunned down in a place where they're supposed to be safe. And that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. It's something heartbreaking. Especially if with all the especially with the both teachers that died saving their students and all their heart, and also acknowledging as well the 25 people that die in Vila Cruzeiro in Rio de Janeiro as well in a police operation. It's also it's just showed that violence happens everywhere in Brazil, in US, and it's something that is just sad and it's heartbreaking for both of the nations that we live.
Yeah, it's definitely a reminder to always live your life to the fullest because you never know when it could potentially end. But moving in to our opening topic, since our last episode, we had a pretty major controversy erupt in the world of college football. Two of the most accomplished, two out of the five coaches right now that have championships. Nick Saban of Alabama, who is probably the greatest coach of all time, and it pains me to say it as a Tennessee alum and fan. Um, versus Jimbo Fisher, who has a national championship with Florida State now at Texas A&M. They have been going at it over NIL deals, national name, image, and likeness, which of course allows players to finally get paid, not just from the schools, but through endorsement deals and collectives. And of course, Texas A&M has really taken this new system by the horns because a lot of their alums have gotten together and they really have gotten together some really nice packages for a lot of 5 stars because Texas A&M had their first ever number one class last year, which led Nick Saban to really tear into them. And I know, Gus, you have the clip of Nick Saban
Yeah,
criticizing Jimbo Fisher. So let's hear what Nick Saban had to say on this topic.
Difficult for the people who are spending tons of money to get players. And you've read about them. You know who they are. I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it.
Yeah, so after that, that caused a firestorm. And then Jimbo Fisher the next day walks into a press conference and does this.
His way. The narcissist in him, the way we do things, the ethics in which we do things, and these families, it's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way. The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen, and it's ridiculous. But when he's not on top, and the parity in college football he's been talking about, go talk to coaches who coach for him. You'll find out all the parity. Go dig into wherever he's been. You can find out anything. And it's a shame that you got to sit here and defend 17-year-old kids and families in Texas A&M because we do things right. We're always going to do things right. But we're always going to be here. We're doing a heck of a job. These coaches have done a great job. Our players have done a great job. The whole organization of recruiting people. It's despicable that we got to sit here at this level of ball and say these things to defend the people of this organization, the kids, 17-year-old kids and their families. It's amazing. Some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out about a guy that a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out. What he
Now, we must remind the audience here that Jimbo Fisher did coach, but was an assistant under Nick Saban while he was at LSU and OC. Did I recruit under him? So, some pretty interesting allegations from Jimbo Fisher, who has worked with him in the past. It's a very interesting. You never hear two coaches like this ever go at each other in press conferences. And of course, the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey stepped in and said, "No, boys, you can't do this." Issued both public reprimands, and that's been the end of that. Nick Saban did come out and say that he shouldn't have phrased it like that in public. And of course, he also did bring up Deion Sanders from Jackson State, because you'll remember they got a 5-star recruit of their own back in December, primarily through a $1 million deal with Barstool Sports. So, and that was Travis Hunter was that recruit. It's just a very, very interesting turn of events, but we're looking at how NIL is changing college football. And clearly, when money gets involved publicly like this, I just feel like it's going to intensify the rivalries of these coaches.
Yeah, I mean, and first of all, Nick Saban always had the respect and I feel like a little bit of admiration of all their former assistant who then became head coaches, like from Lane Kiffin to Kirby Smart to Jeremy Pruitt to, until this episode, Jimbo Fisher, you name it. They all spoke candidly about Nick Saban. Nick Saban always let their doors open for their assistants. Even Jimbo Fisher mentioned Nick Saban wanted him back when he was fired at Florida State. He declined that offer, and and I feel like he opened some Pandora's box because I feel like nobody dig into the questions. Be like, because I feel like the most shocking for me about this press conference, like, you take like look what God did to make the deal. Like, what is he accusing Nick Saban of? What is he means by that? I feel like that's what Greg Shanky and the NCAA should be thinking. Should go ask Jimbo Fisher, what do you want to mean by that? What are you accusing of?
I mean, they're doing their jobs. They should have come and asked. But we all know the NCAA is highly, highly incompetent, and they play favorites. Alabama is one of their favorites. I mean, when you look back at 2007, 2008, when Nick Saban got there, I mean, come on, guys. Do we really think he was able to get those teams clean? Like, Alabama was a mess when he got there, and in 2 years, he's in the national title game. How did that happen? How did that happen? I know Alabama's always going to be one of the top schools for recruiting regardless, but still, I think he had to, father stretch his hands a little bit to get some of those talents, to get Julio Jones off the top and whatnot. Obviously a lot of people have been accusing Alabama for years of cheating because, I mean, let's just think about it. I mean, what is the appeal of going to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I mean, just outside of going to play football there. I mean, I don't think people are instantly like clamoring to go down to Tuscaloosa to go to school there for 4 years. And I'm not saying it's a terrible city. Never really spent a ton of time there outside of my 2 football days. Or 2 times I've been there for football. But it's you got to convince them to go there somehow, or especially at the beginning. Now, I understand why people would go there because they've been the best program in college football for the last decade. But at the beginning, I could see how father stretched his hands. And I also think about this too when he went to LSU. LSU was horrible before Nick Saban got there, for a period of like 20 years before he got there, and Saban got them turned around pretty fast too. And then you compare what he did in college versus what he did in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, where you can't really just go and buy players because everyone's getting paid anyway, and doesn't really do that hot. So that's just So what's the difference between his success in college and his success in the NFL? You have to ask.
And to your point, do you think that's why Nick Saban feels so terrified about name, image, and likeness? Is because of this open market that has been created for players to, you know, go sign with universities? Because with, you mentioned Tuscaloosa, not only probably is not as an appealing city for 17, 18 young 17, 18-year-old football players, not appealing economically comparing to College Station and Austin. I'm not mentioning, two cities in Texas that has a lot of probably boosters with connected to the oil industry or the energy industry that have more financial resources to help their universities.
Oh,
That's what.
absolutely. I mean, even Tennessee, I'd say, has more resources than Alabama. I mean, look at what we're doing in our class next year of Nico Amiavelia. I mean, rumors are we're spending up to $8 million, at least with our offshore collectives, to get him in. And actually trying to get Cardell Tays, a 5-star receiver. I don't know what they're going to offer him to come to UT. And we must say, these are not the schools offering; these are these boosters connected to the school who are offering. But let's be honest, how much resources does Alabama have in comparison to some of these other schools? Like, what about Georgia? I mean, literally in the Atlanta metro. Think about all the sponsorship opportunities that are over there compared to Birmingham and Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. No, but I'm happy. Again, we already talked about NIL, and I always been vocal, even at WTK. Like players, anybody who's performing should be compensated. It's just in a capitalist country like the United States of America, Nick Saban should not be whining about. And I think I even was listening the soundbite. He complaining, oh, if we pay players, then college football is dead. No, it's not, because he doesn't probably want to give up his millionaire salary to football in Alabama. So why the players can't be, paid to get, a share of this $1 billion industry that is college football today?
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is, so I heard this stat the other day. So do you know how much money the SEC made in the 2020-21 academic year? So this is the year that was affected by the coronavirus. They made over $750 million of revenue in a year where they couldn't fill up the stadiums at all. I mean, think about it. Think about how much money would have made with full stadiums. I mean, they would have made like $1 billion. So,
Yeah,
like,
probably 2021, 2022 is going to be on this range, when I probably is going to be over the academic year, like in what, a month or so after the College World Series.
right, because that number takes account every single sport. Because football probably is like 60% of that. I don't know what the exact number. Let me see if I can actually find that. 'Cause I just heard that on a podcast I was listening to. Yeah. But every single conference of the P5 made, yeah, so it was $777.8 million. So that divided up between 14 universities is $54.6 million. And it was about $9 million more that each school made in the COVID year versus the 2019-20 year, the year before. And
Yeah.
that doesn't even include bowl games, which
Yeah.
teams still had in that COVID 2020 year. And then also, the SEC gave each of its institutions in that year $23 million each, just to like offset COVID. So it's 14 plus 23 plus whatever else they got. I mean, these schools individually, they were getting so 54 plus 21. So all these schools from the SEC alone probably got about $80 to $90 million. And remember, the schools themselves are not paying the players. So for like Nick Saban, if he's worried about his salary, he has no reason to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just mind blowing about it. But back to, I feel like this rivalry. I mean, for the season, I think for CBS is a, like one network that love that is CBS. Because now Alabama Texas A&M is gonna be their prime time game.
Oh,
That's like they're gonna promote, like they're gonna use those two press conference, like the game will promote itself. You don't need to promote this game.
yeah, because I basically read up the story because I do our morning. I read up our sport mornings, our morning sports segment on my news station here in Chattanooga, which is CBS station. And I basically put at the end, likely going to be here on CBS. So stay tuned to stay tuned to this channel. You're gonna see Saban versus Fisher. Um, of course, I don't know if this is going to be the last year of SEC and CBS before they move to ESPN. I believe they said it's 25 is when that's going to happen. Because remember, the SEC and CBS deal is expiring.
Uh, yeah, it's gonna be the new 10-year agreement between SEC and ESPN. It's gonna start on, I think, 2024, 2025.
All right, so we
So it's
got
gonna
two
be
more years of CBS.
two more seasons.
Yeah, it's gonna suck to hear that theme song go away, unless ESPN were to buy that theme. But I imagine they're gonna want their own theme instead.
But now I'm trying to think, other coach rivalries or coach spectacles like that. The coaches going off each other like that. It's trying. I remember one kind of like soundbite like that. It wasn't even not only on press conference, but it was during the game of two very respected soccer head coaches in Brazil, two very successful ones back in 2011. Chichi from Corinthians and Felipão, the World Cup winner with Brazil in 2002. He was coaching Palmeiras at the time, and he was complaining with the referees. And then coach Felipão, and then Chichi with a very famous soundbite say, speak too much, like fala muito. And then the head coaches never spoke with each other again. They were very close. They're both from the Rio Grande do Sul state. They were both from the same school, like, the same kind of, style of playing, but they never spoke to each other again. I'm very curious if they're still talking until this day, but there were a very heated argument during the game, and, with kind of like dispute between coaches. So this Saban Fisher situation remind me of that.
Yeah, it's always fun when you see coaches go after each other. I think about for a couple years ago, it's 49ers and Lions when they still had Jim Harbaugh, and I believe it was Jim Schwartz for the Lions. And something happened post game that I think Harbaugh was like over celebrating, and Schwartz didn't really like it, and so they kind of got into a scuffle out after the game. So that was a pretty funny situation. I think it had to be like 2015, 2016, something like that when that happened. Also, I remember a couple of years ago in 2020, Broncos Jets, Vic Fabiano didn't appreciate something that was going on with the Jets because the Jets were trying to get a garbage time touchdown, and they didn't really appreciate that. So there
Oh,
were no pleasantries.
one that I remember, it was on his 30 for 30 on ESPN. John Calipari, the current Kentucky basketball head coach, had a very heated argument with Temple head coach John Chaney.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do you remember? Oh, well, I can't believe we even brought this one up because we were covering this Rick Barnes versus Penny Hardaway back in 20.
Oh yeah, that was
18. Yeah, 2018 when that happened because they had that whole scuffle at the end of the game, and then they had the really cold handshake, and then Penny Hardaway claimed they had the balls of fist, and then Penny Hardaway, and then Rick Barnes was like, he's just making that up, and then Hardaway called Barnes an SOB in a press conference.
No, and this still go on today because Rick Barnes. I remember watching his interview with that Tennessee Memphis game that was canceled due to allegedly COVID cases with the Memphis team, but there were some suspicions of uh, kind of some shady activities the like behind the scenes with Penny Hardaway, and then I think Rick Barnes kind of questioned Penny Hardaway's um, kind of ethics with this episode. I think.
Yeah, I mean they're not scheduling any games with each other anytime soon, which is a shame. We should play every single year. Those games are all. I mean, behind like Kentucky, honestly, Memphis is probably the second most intense basketball game that Tennessee plays.
Oh yeah, it's a shame that probably there's not gonna be anymore because I remember when Tennessee went to Memphis and beat them when they were kind of more on top, and then the other way around happened. Remember when Tennessee were beaten by Memphis on a cold Saturday night in December 2019.
I remember that. I had specifically decided not to go. I specifically stayed in Knoxville to go to that game. A pretty disappointing loss, and definitely a sign that that team wasn't going to be that great. If anything, I know obviously it sucked that we lost March Madness that year, especially for teams like Dayton and San Diego State. But from our perspective, that year could not have worked out any better because we basically got a free rebuild year without having to watch, a March Madness without Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but yeah, that loss very kind of sting for the Tennessee perspective. But and in terms of this kind of rivalry in college football, I mean, I feel like there was, I think, not like as heated like that, but I think Saban and Les Miles kind of had a little rivalry, especially when both had one national championship, and Alabama and LSU were the biggest rivals in the end of the last decade.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think about like Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler, Ohio State and Michigan historically. Yeah, I think about like Bob Stoops and Mac Brown at Texas, Oklahoma. Yeah, like Charlie Wise versus Pete Carroll at USC and Notre Dame back in the mid 2000s. Those are some of the ones in college football that really stand out to me. I mean, Auburn changes their coaches so much that I feel like none of them have really been able to get a true rivalry with Saban. I mean, Malzahn, I guess, to an extent, had a rivalry with Saban, but not to an extreme intense.
Uh,
Oh, I'll tell you a good one: Spurrier versus Bobby Bowden,
I was
Florida.
gonna say that.
Yeah, 'cause those two definitely jai each other a ton
Here
back
in
in the day.
Brazil, yeah, here in Brazil, kind of the most recent coaches rivalry were Jorge Jesus when he was coaching Flamengo and Renato Gaúcho when he was coaching Grêmio, especially when they both collided in the Libertadores semifinal. And then Renato Gaúcho said that Jorge Jesus was overrated. It was easy to coach a rich team, and if he had a $200 million team on his hand, it would be easy for him. So he was devaluing his rival. He was devaluing his he was a adversary, his coach adversary. But ironically, his words were to buy him when he could not win the titles that Jorge Jesus win when he was in Flamengo, and then he was promptly fired after he lost the Libertadores final. So sometimes when you want to provoke your rival, the words can bite you at the end.
Oh, absolutely. And you gotta be careful. You gotta be able to back up the talk. And that's just in anything. If you're an athlete, you're a coach, you gotta be able to back yourself up.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I feel like for college football, I think as a whole, as a promotion, I think was interesting. I mean, it made headlines, of all national sports. I feel like it's SEC should be. I know Greg Shanky kind of issued a statement, but he should be happy. I mean, his conference, it's very been talked about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, definitely, SEC football is going to have as much hype as possible heading into this season between Alabama and Texas A&M. Because we know Georgia's defending national champion. Tennessee has a lot of hype coming into this year. I don't know if you saw the ESPN Power Ranking 12 offenses, but Tennessee, they had Tennessee at number 4. So um, that's going to be very, very interesting. But let's kind of go ahead and start transitioning into some American topics here. We'll start off with a topic near and dear to us: college baseball postseason. Right now, we're in conference tournaments. Right now, the SEC tournament's going on down in Hoover, and the Tennessee Baseball Volunteers, #1 in the country, regular season champions of the SEC, gonna be the #1 seed. Really, this weekend doesn't matter a ton to them, if we're being honest. Really, I think the goal. I mean, obviously, I know you want to win the SEC tournament, but I would rather them avoid injury here and just kind of make sure you get through this week and are ready for the actual regional tournament next weekend. Because they're going to play Vanderbilt tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Because they were going to play this evening, but it's been, as I've said, it's been raining a ton down here in the South, so it's been hard for them to get in all their games. Is it national championship or bust for this team? Because it feels like it. I mean, this team has been the most dominant team in the country all year, and we made the World Series last year, didn't win a game in Omaha. I feel like the goal is to get back there and actually get it done this time.
This season kind of reminds me when Tennessee basketball was the #1 ranked. I think was 2017, 2018.
Yeah, and 18, 19.
18, 19, yeah. It reminds me of that season because there was so much hype and Tennessee, was the #1, was favorite, but couldn't get even to the Final Four. So I think definitely to the this baseball team is going to be like that. It's going to be more pressure than last year. Last year I feel like was more a fun season because Tennessee was surprise everyone. It's been so good, but this season they established themselves. But they have to be successful in Omaha.
Yeah, they're gonna get everyone's best shot that comes into Knoxville for regionals and potentially super regionals. So definitely got to get through this week. We would love to see them win the SEC tournament, but it's more important to be at full strength and to be ready to go out for that NCAA tournament run next week. Unfortunately, on the softball side of things, the Lady Vols unfortunately got bounced by Oregon State. The second straight year they've gotten bounced at home in the regionals. It's starting to get to the point where, obviously the weeklies have been great coaches for the Lady Vols, but do you have to start wondering if they need new coaches, if they need fresh blood? Because it feels like they do well in the regular season. They've been in the top half of the SEC, which is the toughest conference in the country, but every time they get to the postseason now, they can't seem to get it done.
Yeah, and in the beginning and last year, Weekly retired, so now it's only Karen Weekly. So I think probably maybe should be transitioning. I don't know. I mean, I watched a ton of their games last year, and they've been really good, as you said, on the regular season, but they just can't get done in the postseason. But
And
I
also
feel
shout
like
out as well to the Chattanooga Lady Mocs, who made the softball tournament as well. They actually won a game against Murray State, their first win in over 10 years. Unfortunately, they lost to a superior Alabama team, but still, obviously, a great run for them to make the NCAA tournament.
yeah, and also, did you saw that? I think I don't know exactly what website, but Tennessee is the best athletic program in the SEC in terms of percentage of winning in like
Yeah,
all sports.
which is crazy. I mean, Tennessee's athletics has been in such turmoil, but now it feels like that we've really been able to kind of turn over a new leaf. We just got to get football up to that same standard as everyone else. But I think that football is trending in that right direction as well. So it's good times. There's really not been one bad sport anywhere. I mean, volleyball was decent this year. I don't believe they made the tournament, but they were like average in the SEC. Of course,
Soccer finally won the soccer SEC tournament.
Yep. So you have that. Of course, baseball's been amazing. Softball did good. Tennis. Of course, was in the championships. They were doing very, very well. I mean, both basketball teams made the tournament, so it's of course, volleyball's moved back to Sweet 16 this year. So a good year in Rocky Top. Hopefully, we start collecting some trophies soon, and hopefully that starts with some baseball here this summer, because that would be amazing. Also, looking forward to some basketball next year. Both teams have been recruiting very well. So I really like what Rick Point's been doing this offseason. So we'll see how that translates next winter.
Yeah, definitely. I and I feel like and one sign up to a very good sign about how this Tennessee team is dominant. They crushed the current College World Series champion Mississippi State. That was, I think, 27-2.
Yeah, Mississippi State just fell off a cliff this year, and I can only imagine going from watching a team win a national title to losing 27-2 in a game. And that was not the only time this year they went out and embarrassed someone like that either. So it's just, I mean, the amount of runs this team has scored is just godly. Just probably one of the greatest regular seasons ever in the history of college baseball. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. Now it's all about the postseason. Now it's all about what you do. Are you going to lift that trophy in TD Ameritrade Park in Omaha? That's what is the goal now. I know that's what that team is thinking about. Of course, you got the SEC tournament, so you obviously want to win in Hoover. But as I said, this week really doesn't matter for the Vols. They're going to be the number one seed next week, regardless. So, I mean, this week is just, well, if you get the trophy, awesome. If you don't, regroup for next week.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, of course, it'll be, good to win another SEC tournament, the third sport to win this season, soccer and men's basketball got that done. But, again, of course, it wouldn't be the end of the world because it all goes down to what happens in Omaha in June.
Yeah, 'cause remember, Mississippi State lost lost on like Wednesday last year to the Vols, and they went on to win the national title. So it's, I said that they don't, like in basketball conference tournaments, unless you really need the wins to get into the tournament, they don't really matter. All right, guys, let's move on to some NBA playoffs. We're in conference final season. So we have two different series ongoing. Let's start with the Western Conference Finals because these are pretty much set. They did get extended a game last night. The Warriors are up 3-1. The Mavericks controlled most of the game last night in Game 4. The Warriors almost came back and almost won the series last night. They were down by like 30, but got it down to 8. But the Mavericks were able to hold on. I'm still pretty convinced the Warriors are going to win this thing probably tomorrow night in Game 5. If you can get it back to Game 6, things start getting murky. But I think the Warriors are too deep. I think they've got too many different playmakers. Andrew Wiggins has been playing very well. We know what Jordan Poole has brought in. Obviously, Curry, what Klay Thompson brings. It's just they're too deep and they have too much experience for this Mavs team.
Oh, shout out to my friend Miguel Ribeiro. He said, I only know beer in English, the drink. He owns a bar here in Brazil. This is a very good one. Nicholas you're invited. He said you should go down here to his.
Yes. We'll definitely have to go there whenever I get to Brazil.
And Adelia Batista as well. Say good night. Bruno Slonik also watching as well. So shout out to our viewers.
Shout out to all of them. Yeah, but the Warriors are going to the finals. No team has ever blown a 3-0 lead in the NBA. I mean, that's happened a couple times in NHL, but it's never happened in the NBA.
I mean, I remember the 2004 American League Championship Series. I mean,
yeah, in baseball that has happened as well. So I mean, never say never, but I would be stunned if the Warriors blew. I mean, this would even be worse than their 3-1 blown lead to the Cavaliers.
That's what I'm saying. Game 5 is crucial because for me, that's where the Warriors lost in that series versus the Cavs. The Game 5 loss. They gotta get their work done in Game 5. So I mean, this Game 5 should be their do or die game, so you don't extend the series. Get your job done. Move on to the finals. And I mean, I feel like so refreshing to see the Warriors dynasty, revamping, because I feel like it looks like they were down. They were gonna take forever to recover after that, you know, t- brutal 2019 NBA Finals where the team literally fell apart. It was so painful to see that final with KD, Clay Thompson injuries. That was heartbreaking, and it looked like Warriors was not gonna get back to the point of being a contender after the finals with KD left to Brooklyn and Clay Thompson's injury that was worse than it looked like in the final. But then the team recovered, especially with Stephen Curry still being one of the best shooters in NBA history. Clay Thompson also get a good recovery. Andrew Wiggins, I think, was a good piece added to that roster. So I think they're gonna get their job done. I think they won, in Game 5 and move on to the finals.
Yeah, Andrew Wiggins has been so impressive on this team because I feel like for a long time he was heavily maligned because he was a number one pick, didn't really show it in Minnesota, but he's really found a good role on this team. Kind of reminds me a lot of Andrew Iguodala's role that he used to have on the mid 2010s Warriors teams. So definitely Andrew Wiggins has really come into his own for the Warriors. We're both on the Warriors big here, but you're right though. If they lose tomorrow and they have to go back to Texas for Game 6, anything could happen, especially with Luka Doncic. I mean, Luka has been magnificent this entire postseason. He's established himself as a top 5 player. I don't think he has enough around him to beat this team 4 straight times. But we will have to see on that.
Yeah,
Warriors Mavs Game 5 tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
and,
But
but
over go
just
ahead.
just to finalize my point, and also I feel like this victory, this Game 5 win for Dallas, it was good. I feel like if even if he got defeated tomorrow, a 4-1 loss in a conference final, it's not a disaster. I feel like this Dallas team can be achieving more. I feel like get swept would a sting, but I think a 4-1 loss is fine. It's not the end of the world.
Right. I mean, you got a young superstar. Now you just got to build around him. And it's kind of like the Cavs with LeBron, like in the late 2000s. You just gotta find a way to get Luka the support
Yeah.
that he needs. So over in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's 2-2. Although it's been kind of weird because none of the games have been particularly close in this series. They've all been relative blowouts. No Game 2 only had like a 7-point spread, but it's been Heat Celtics, and Game 5 is about to start in Miami. And it's been a weird series. I don't really know where this is going to go. It feels like the type of series where each team is going to win one of the next 2 games. We're going to get a Game 7 in Miami where anything could happen. I'm still inclined to pick the Celtics here. I think they have a deeper roster than the Heat do. But you just never know. They've been very inconsistent this series. The Heat have a really good defense. And Jimmy Butler, it's hard to be denied in the postseason, but I mean, he was horrible the other day. He was 3 of 14 in Game 4 shooting. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I feel like the Heat, though they had a couple of key injuries, especially with Tyler Hero, but they be able to play hard and keep the series alive. I feel like, and it's so fun. It's so funny. Even though the series tied, if Miami wins, it's gonna be like if Miami would have lose, I don't think it would be a disaster. I think they, it would have been more disaster if the Celtics lost. If the Celtics can get done this year, then I think you would start even question even more about Brad Stevens as a GM.
Yeah, and then you start asking yourself, with what you have, can you win a title? Because you got Jason Tatum, you got Jaylen Brown, you got Marcus Smart coming off the bench. I know Smart has been hurt in this series. Um, can you win a title with these guys? If you lose here in the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't know. I still don't really think either one of these rosters is going to beat the Warriors in the NBA Finals, but I think the Celtics have more to them. I think they have the better shot at the Warriors in the NBA Finals than the Heat do.
And it's crazy because if you look in this last 10 years, the Celtic has been more consistent team, but Miami was the one that was able to make it to the finals in 2020. The Celtics, they made it uh, several times to the Eastern Conference final, but they never got the job done. That's why they have done more pressure than the Heat.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Eric Spoelstra, he's very safe. I mean, he's proven himself as an NBA coach. The Celtics have way more to prove here, but I think they have the better roster. Um, Al Horford, this is going to be one of his last real runs at it. He's 35. It's going to be very. I really don't know how this is going to go the rest of the series. My inkling is the Celtics are going to pull this thing out in 7 on the road, but I don't know how. I'm not confident in that. Like I'm confident in the Warriors pick.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like probably the Celtics gonna win in 7, but in the finals, I think the Warriors are the favorite.
Oh yeah, I think the Warriors in like 5. The Warriors in like 5. Shout out to Pedro Tomato.
Yeah, Pedro Higuitameto. Thanks for watching. He's a rising broadcaster. He's a 13-year-old and he's already calling games with me on the radio.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's to already get that experience at that age is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So shout out. He is a big Man City fan, and he is a very happy with the Manchester City title in England. Tell you
Yeah,
that.
I'm glad for their sakes they were able to at least pull that out, considering that they let the Champions League get away.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
but
but that obviously is what the NBA is at here. So tonight is Celtics Heat. They're getting started right now. Tomorrow night is Game 5 of the Warriors and the Mavericks. All right. Also, in addition to the NBA playoffs, we have the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're currently in the second round. We already have one final here in the second round. The Tampa Bay Lightning swept the Florida Panthers. And I feel like this is just crushing for the Panthers. We're talking about disastrous losses. That's crushing. Florida had the President's Cup this year, our President's Trophy. They were the best team all season, and you get swept in the postseason. It just bad. Just a terrible, terrible series for the Lightning, for the Panthers.
but it just show how Tampa Bay is just clutch in NHL in the postseason. They're just a clutch team. They get the job done.
Oh yeah,
Look at
absolutely.
look at
I
their
mean,
track record.
yeah, it's their 10th straight series win. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, especially in a series like the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, it's almost like March Madness in terms of how random it can be sometimes. So, I mean, for the Lightning to have this much of a chokehold on this, I mean, it's just incredible to watch. So they are going to be awaiting the winner of the Rangers and the Hurricanes. Now, the Hurricanes jumped up to a 2-0 lead at home in Raleigh. But the Rangers, with the power of Madison Square Garden, have come back to tie this series at 2. This is going to be interesting to see how this kind of wraps up here. Because you got Game 5 down in Carolina tomorrow night. And you got to go back to New York on Saturday for a Game 6. Potentially have to go back to Carolina on Monday for a Game 7 on Memorial Day. Right now, definitely the Rangers have the momentum. I feel like the Rangers probably have the more talent here. I'm feeling the Rangers here. I wouldn't be shocked if the Rangers got this thing in 6.
Yeah, also, yeah, that's true. I feel like the Rangers has the momentum, especially if they get Game 5. Then I think they got their job. They're gonna get their job done in New York, and I think that I take the Rangers in 6.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I mean, Obviously, if the Hurricanes can get it turned around in Game 5, then that makes that Game 6 super crucial.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they would feel the pressure to close it out in the Madison Square Garden in Game 6 because Game 7, anything can happen.
Yeah, I think if the series come back to Riley, I think then the Carolina, I think the momentum swift.
Yeah, but I think the question to also ask here: can the Rangers or the Hurricanes beat the Lightning? Which right now, I don't know if I'm really confident. I feel like if we got Rangers Lightning, I would put the Lightning in like 6. Lightning Hurricanes would put the Lightnings in like 5. Yeah, I feel like we're looking at the Lightning getting to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. And just
Yeah,
kind of really getting a dynasty together.
yeah,
There.
it's so weird to see hockey dynasty in the state of Florida of all
Right.
places.
I know it's really strange. But speaking of, I think they're the Lightning's biggest threat in the entire league. I think it's the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado is just really taking it to the St. Louis Blues. They're up 3-1. They had an overtime win in Game 1. The Blues actually had an amazing Game 2, won 4-1. But in St. Louis, the Colorado Avalanche just dominated. They won 5-2 Game 3, 6-3 Game 4. Of course, they swept my Predators last round.
And
I
they're
think the
currently
Avalanche tonight. Oh, go
and
ahead.
they're currently up by 2 versus the Blues. So
Yeah, so
probably
they're gonna
gonna
lose
get
that.
so they're probably gonna get their job done. And they're the team in this postseason that had the fewest loss of any team that made it to the second round.
Oh yeah. Uh, yeah, I think the Avalanche are gonna be the biggest threat to the Lightning. Easily. Now they're likely going to face the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers have won 3 straight games in their series, or up 3-1 in the Calgary Flames. That Game 1 was wild last week. 9-6 was Game 1 between the Flames and the Oilers. Flames won that, but the Oilers have been in control the rest of the series. And like obviously, Connor McDavid has been incredible, and obviously the rest of that team has been playing very well. It feels like Edmonton's going to pull that thing out. I think Calgary could win this thing tomorrow. Could win tomorrow night, but then I think the Oilers are going to win in Game 6. Which, I mean, the Flames were one of my picks. So remember, I had the Flames and the Maple Leafs, and the Maple Leafs lost last round. It looks like the Flames are going to lose this round. So some of my hockey predictions are out the window there. But it seems like the Oilers are going to get this job done. Which, of course, it's good to see. I mean, the Oilers are, in addition to like the Maple Leafs, one of the crown jewel teams of the NHL, especially because of what they were able to do with Wayne Gretzky back in the day.
Yeah, but I'm kind of rooting for Edmonton because it's good to see Canadian team making to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, but I do feel like if we get the Oilers and the Avalanche are going to win in 6. That's my prediction for that series. I think the Avalanche are really, really, really solid this year, and it's going to set will be an amazing Stanley Cup Finals between the Avalanche and the Lightning. I think that could go 7.
Yeah, I meet you. I think that too.
Yeah, so I feel like we're all of us are winning for the Avalanche and Lightning there, but the Oilers could definitely go in and spoil the party.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an exciting end to the NHL playoffs. We're definitely going to get Dylan back on when we get around the Stanley Cup Finals time just to get his breakdown of how this postseason went. All right, so a couple of other small topics here before we transition over to Brazil. So a report came out today that Colin Kaepernick, the least controversial athlete of all time, I might add. I say that in jest. Probably the exact opposite, the most controversial athlete of all time. Was cited today practicing with the Raiders. First time in 5 years he's been on an official practice field with an NFL team. Do we think there's any chance the Raiders are actually going to sign him, or are they just kind of do we think it's just like a courtesy workout? What's going on here with Kaepernick and the Raiders?
I mean, I feel like it will be because he'll be the third, not only the backup, he'll be the third quarterback in a roster because there's But
Derek
I
Carr.
don't know. Yeah, Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota.
Mariota's in Atlanta.
Oh, that's true. But yeah, so he'd probably be a good backup, but he'd probably be a courtesy. I feel like also the Raiders kind of want to have some good PR, especially the league after all the controversy with John Gruden and all that, you know, kind of mess they got in themselves into. So I think having Kaepernick, kind of in their side, or at least it looked like, kind of helps them with, getting closer to the league because there was a mess last year in terms of that kind of situation with John Gruden.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw this today too, but John Gruden won his lawsuits today against the NFL. So the judge denied the NFL's motion to dismiss John Gruden's lawsuit, move it to arbitration. So, definitely a lot of news coming out today about the Raiders. In terms of actually Kaepernick's ability to make the roster, I mean, it's hard for any athlete being out of a sport for 5 years to come back to it and be successful, especially in the NFL. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be the starter, because Derek Carr is a top 10 QB. On the rest of the roster here, you got Jared Stidham, who'll likely be your backup, or you have Nick Mullins, who's on roster. I don't even see Colin Kaepernick being out one of those two guys for a roster spot. I mean, it's definitely a courtesy workout. Perhaps just trying to get a different look, perhaps trying to teach someone one or two things, because obviously Kaepernick has a ton of experience. And you do have to remember as well, Kaepernick played in college at the University of Nevada as well, up in Reno. So that might have something to do with it as well.
And he went to the Super Bowl. He said, I'll tell you this, as all the I don't have some different thoughts of his political side that he was an accomplished quarterback. He made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, as much as we talk about a rising quarterback in the league, when he was in his prime, he made to I think like 3 straight NFC championship games and to the Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he was really, really good before injury, and I think some of the defensive coordinators will start figuring him out, and he just really wasn't able to be as effective later on in his career, but he was electric. Especially, I remember in college, too, because I don't know if you remember 2011, Boise State could have played in the national title last year, or that year, but Nevada upset them with Colin Kaepernick as quarterback his senior year in Nevada. It was on a Black Friday late night. It was an amazing game. And they had to come back from a 24-7 deficit, too, to beat Boise State. And that was when Boise State was at their prime with Kellen Moore, who's now the OC of the Cowboys. So he did a lot. And obviously, everyone thinks about all the political stuff now when it comes to Kaepernick. But, let's not discount what he did as a football player. He was a really, really good quarterback when he was younger and when he was healthy. So it really is a shame too that all the political stuff gets in the way of talking about Colin Kaepernick, because he was a good football player, and there's a reason why what he did went so far is because he was a good athlete. So
and when he went down was not only him but the 49ers as a whole. He was not playing well but Jim Harbaugh was fired, and then there was a whole mess situation with the coaches. So Kaepernick, he got probably some backlash with the league, but also he got just unfortunate because in a space of like 2 seasons, they went from a Super Bowl team to under 500.
Yeah, I mean, it really took a change in GM and owner and like leadership to really get that ship turned around to where they are now. And really, I think the time that he ended up doing a lot of, obviously the kneeling of the flag. You remember that was about the same time Trump was coming onto the scene as a political figure, and that really, I think, just was a massive firestorm you couldn't get away from. But I don't know how much longer his career was really going to last beyond that without the political stuff. So it's I'll be curious to see, but I do think his future is not in football. It'll be off the field. All right, one last topic I want to bring up here. I wanted to kind of rant here for a second. The NASCAR All-Star race was not very good. They had it at Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth. That racetrack is the worst in the schedule. I was hoping the new Gen 7 car would help fix it because it's really done well at other mile-and-a-half tracks like Texas, but it didn't fix this racetrack. That Texas needs to be bulldozed, or the motor speedway needs to be bulldozed. It's they NASCAR has left better tracks in recent years that it could go back to, and it would put on much more entertaining races than Texas. It's the worst track on the schedule, and then also some of the rules of the race didn't make any sense because it's an exhibition race, so they're trying to like maximize entertainment versus a normal points race. So I don't know if you saw this, but literally it was Ryan Blaney. He's coming to the checkered flag, and right before he reaches the checkered flag, they throw the caution for no reason. Like it was really, really weird. It was a really weird, stupid race all around. Um, Fortunately, they get back to regular racing this week. They have the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, which is one of the crown jewel races, the longest race of the year. And I do think that's going to be a really entertaining race because Charlotte is a much better track than Texas. But anyway, let's transition over to Brazilian topics. I know we have a lot of teams with Libertadores and
Yeah.
Sul-Americana.
Yeah, that it's I'll call the international week because it's Libertadores and Sul-Americana. Very disappointed at Red Bull Bragantino. I thought they would advance to the knockout stage. Lost 3-0 badly to Nacional of Uruguay. They not even made it to the Sul-Americana Sul-Americana because when you like, so the system like the first two teams in each group advance in the Libertadores advance to the knockout stage. The third place now goes to the Copa Sul-Americana, which is like the Europa League of South America. Uh, but they couldn't even get that. I feel like and the question is Red Bull Bragantino one of the top teams they're gonna be fighting for titles, or just a good investment for Red Bull to sign young players and then sell to the European market? I think they're in a cross point because everybody had high expectations for Red Bull Bragantino. They were purchased 3 years ago. Red Bull purchased the team of Bragantino from Bragança Paulista. It's like an hour away from here, Americana, for like 40 million reais. In they're doing well. I mean, from a countryside team, they're still in the first division in Brazil in Brazilian soccer. They made to their first ever Libertadores, but I don't know. I feel like they should be aspiring for more, especially all the investment the Red Bull made it, and I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed of their performance in Libertadores. It's so funny. They kind of leveled the performance of country, the other São Paulo countryside team that played Libertadores, Paulista of Jundiaí in 2006. Both were eliminated in the first round in the last place of the group. So I mean, I'm just and a lot of people are calling for the coach Mauricio Barbieri to be fired, and I feel like he should be questioned because I don't know if he's the coach they're gonna bring titles to Bragança Paulista. I mean, if you want to build a fan base that because a lot of the older fans kind of not as a little bit alienated because the team has different colors. Even though they still have to use their name and their stadium, the colors are totally different. So they're trying to build a new fan base. So winning titles is important to that, and having success in South American competitions. So that was a little disappointing. But I'm from and on the other side, positive surprise. Fortaleza. I mean, they're in the last place in the Brazilian league, but they won 4-2 in Chile versus Colo Colo to advance to the first time ever to the knockout stage in Libertadores. The Argentinian head coach Juan Pablo Voivoda doing a tremendous job there, and I'm happy for them because it's a very incredible fan base that has been supporting their team, even though they were in the down years in the third division. Now they advanced to the knockout stage in the Libertadores. But back to the main teams, Palmeiras. I mean, who's gonna stop them? Who's gonna stop Palmeiras? 4-1 with the reserves versus Deportivo Táchira. 3 goals from Gustavo Scarpa, 1 from Rony. And I mean, they were the team that scored the most goals ever in a group stage in Libertadores, 24. The best defense, 6 games, 6 wins. I know it was a very easy group. Was the easiest group by any team ever in the Libertadores. I think ever. Palmeiras could well, even able to rest players during the stage, and for a lot of the other teams, it's not even a possibility. But I feel like Palmeiras in the point that they're the favorites to win it again, to get the the back to back to back titles.
I mean, it's wild
So
you're able to get away with that. 'Cause, I mean, I know like in Europe you're able to do that because those teams are so deep, but it just sounds like they're more structured like your European team compared to most of their opposing teams in South America.
yeah, yeah, Palmeiras kind of feels like an European team. I think Abel Ferreira shaped Palmeiras into an European style play. There are a lot of football fans were calling that more defensive side, but now Palmeiras mocks that because Palmeiras in Libertadores they score in probably in the majority of the game 4 or more goals, so they're very offensive style, but still good on defense. I mean, I don't understand why Dudu and Rafael Veiga are not in the Brazil national team. I mean, the jokes are incredible with especially with Rafael Veiga. It's like, is Rafael Veiga Argentinian? Is Rafael Veiga from another country? Because he's the best Brazilian player this season. There's no other explanation. He is so effective in penalties. He is such a good midfielder. He's able to, have good shots, and I feel like Palmeiras is such a good, and Abel Ferreira. He's a coach that was able to craft that team such in his way that if the problem is if he leaves, Palmeiras is going to have a hard time rebuilding. And there were some speculations that Abel Ferreira might coach Brazil national team after the World Cup because Tite is not gonna stay. Even if Brazil wins the World Cup, Tite is gonna leave. Abel Ferreira is the is a big favorite to get that job, and I would have get that, and I would have take that job if I was him because his family is moving to Brazil, so he's definitely here to stay. But when the Brazil national team calls you, you go for it.
Yeah, I know. I remember you mentioned on another episode how the Brazilian national team is kind of a good boys club. How if you have to be kind of within the system already, and you kind of can't earn your way onto the team with performance.
Yeah, but I feel like now the Brazilian Confederation they're gonna hire a Portuguese head coach. That's what they're gonna do because that's the new trend. I think they're gonna try Abel Ferreira. If not, maybe Jorge Jesus. But they're gonna hire a foreigner head coach. I think they're gonna do that, especially with all the trendiness that with foreigner head coaches in Brazilian soccer in the last like 4 years.
Man, it just feels like too, if Brazil fails to win again this year, that it's going to have to force a complete redo of how they select players. Because I mean, it's already been 20 years since Brazil has won a World Cup, and another loss here is going to force their hand.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I feel like if they can get the job done this year, there's gonna have to be major changes in the way that you call players, and especially look more into the here in the Brazilian league, not so much in the Brazilian players play in the European league. I feel like. But in just to finish it up, Libertadores tomorrow, Flamengo won 2-1, but the fans are still mad. I don't know what they're mad for. It was 2-1, but the goal the Sporting Cristal scored was in a mistake and was in a kind of a blunder by the goalkeeper Hugo. And then by the end of the day, the fans were booing, and that's gonna be and I'm gonna get that in the hot takes. But Flamengo fans are so spoiled. They're so Flamengo was the second best team in all group stage in Libertadores. They're 3 wins in a row. They're qualified to the knockout stage. They're a little down in the Brazilian league. I know they're still in the they're not in the top 10 as they should be, and I think they're gonna get there. But I think the Flamengo fans they don't have a reason to be upset or to be booing because their team has been performing so well. I know they're still expecting a 2019 performance, and again, of course, Flamengo has the competence and the players to go there, but they can't expect that all the time. So I feel like Flamengo fans, calling the heads of the president or the football executive is just, I don't know. I feel like they're a lot spoiled, but Flamengo got the job done, 2-1 at home, advanced also to the knockout stage. And to finish up Libertadores, Corinthians plays tomorrow versus Always Ready from Bolivia. Corinthians should win in advance. Always Ready is already eliminated. They're traveling to Sao Paulo with the reserves because they have the Bolivian League semifinal this weekend. And, I feel like Corinthians should take care of business, also advance to the knockout stage. And, I feel like, Corinthians, even though their coach had some not happy remarks last weekend, saying that comparing like a player not performing well to his stage of his career, saying like, "Oh, this player not playing well. I wish he is playing better. Like I wish I coach Liverpool, but I'm not coaching Liverpool. I coach Corinthians." So it was a very unfortunate remark. I feel like.
Oh yeah. Um,
Because I feel like even though Liverpool is a better team than Corinthians, is a richer team in a better market, you don't say that. You don't diminish the team that you're coaching right now. I mean, it was a very bad comparison. I feel like you kind of you know it was he. I feel like he felt that it wasn't wrong. He was just honest, but sometimes it just hurts. And you know, I feel like Vitor Pereira, the coach, could said it better. I just said that,
you
but
never want to integrate your own team like that before a game. It's just like, yeah, we suck. Like it's like if Jeremy Pruitt or it's like if Butch Jones comes back, takes Arkansas State, brings it back to Neyland Stadium, right? And Butch Jones is like, well, Arkansas State, we don't have the resources that Tennessee does, and yada yada yada. We're a Sun Belt team, and
or
uh,
or even worse, say, oh, like he said, oh, we lost Tennessee, but I have the resource of Arkansas State. I wish one day I'll go back to Tennessee, or I wish one day I go back to coach a big time. Arkansas fans would feel like so little.
mhm. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So in tomorrow as well, other teams are gonna decide their faith in Libertadores. Atlético Paranaense, I think they're gonna take care of business and advance to the knockout stage. Atlético Mineiro playing right now. They already are in. They already in the first place. They're tying 0-0. They should be the first place. And if of all the Brazilian teams in the knockout in the group stage, only América Mineiro and Bragantino are eliminated. So two out of the six teams of Brazilian in Libertadores. The drawing, the drawing of the knockout stage is going to be Friday. I'm excited of the matchups they're going to be. And to finalize South American soccer, Santos and Sao Paulo also advanced to the knockout stage of Sul Americana. I, it's a weird tournament. It's like your Europa League. I mean, you're happy if you win, but it's not very desirable by fans. But they advance to the next round. And in the Brasileirão, the Brazilian National League, which has their week 7 this weekend, all three out of their four in the top three out of the top four teams are from Sao Paulo. Corinthians first, Palmeiras second, São Paulo third. I mean, Palmeiras, it looked like was gonna stay down, but they're already in second place, and I think they're gonna fight to the title again. I know if Corinthians are gonna stay in first place as long. I know they are the last 4 year they haven't lost in the last 4 games, but they tied the last 2 games. So I don't know if Corinthians is going to stay in the top for that long. I think Palmeiras is going to be a title contender, especially because they got a lot of points with this, using reserves in this stage of Libertadores. So, and Atletico Mineiro also look, to be they're in fourth place, but I think they're gonna also be a title contender. I have my questions in São Paulo Corinthians. I don't know if they have enough roster, to keep up in the top four. I think if they get some 2 or 3 players injured, I think they're gonna go. They're not gonna stay in the top for that long.
Yeah, that's something. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of important matchups coming up here, especially with that drawing that could like shape those clubs moving forward for years to come.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean Corinthians and Palmeiras, they're gonna divide their attention, especially coming up in late June, early July with Brazilian Cup, Libertadores, and the Brazilian National Championship. So they have 3 major competitions where they're gonna be, with 2 of them are gonna be like playoffs. So it's win or go home. So I feel like, but they're gonna have to divide. If São Paulo, I think, have more chances with staying in the top because they have only Sul-Americana and Brazilian Cup. But Sul-Americana, I think São Paulo can use still some reserves in the knockout stage, especially in the first or second round. But yeah, that's true. Probably in the late June, early July is going to be a really important matchups with Brazilian Cup and Libertadores, and that's going to shape probably even the Brazilian National League. Oh, and speaking of league, Brazil, it looks like they're going to create their version of the Premier League. It called Libra, the League of Brazilian Teams. I'm excited for that.
That's
I
good.
mean,
That's good.
there's a good step. It's a good direction. I mean, I'm skeptical because again, Brazilian teams presidents are not reliable. They're again more like a politician than an owner. So, but it's in a good direction. Brazil, it looks like they're gonna had start going the direction to create a league like the Premier League.
Yeah, they absolutely should be doing stuff like that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, we talked about this in a previous episode about how if South American soccer wants to be on the same level as Europe, they need to have that a similar business model, so you can export the product, so you can get it on TV in America. Because right now it's too hard for the majority of Americans to really um, get to watch it because they don't know where to find it. But for the Premier League, you can start doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean they have to market better their product, not only domestically but abroad. And creating a league is going to be a probably a very good expansion to that product because Brazilian soccer is a good product. I feel like it has a potential to be a good product, but it has to be better promoted and better organized. So let's go to hot takes, and there's a must watch on Sunday, and I agree with you.
Yeah, Indianapolis 500. Even if you're not a motorsports fan, you need to sit down and watch the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday. The last year's race was incredible. Helio Castroneves won the race. Spider-Man. Brazilian. Can he get his 5th one this year? We'll have to see. Personally, the guy I'm watching is Jimmy Johnson. He's making his first ever Indy 500 start. 7-time NASCAR champion. Originally, when he went to IndyCar, he said he was never going to run ovals. Now he's running ovals. I mean, he's a racer. Racers are not going to turn down the opportunity to race in the Indianapolis 500 because it is one of the most prestigious races in the entire world. And it's just going to be an exciting race. The speeds this year have been off the chain. The qualifying was wild. I don't know who's going to win, but it would be awesome to see Jimmy Johnson win because Jimmy Johnson last won a NASCAR race in 2017. Like he went the last 3.5 years without winning a NASCAR race. Has not won an IndyCar yet. If he could come out and win the Indianapolis 500, that would cement him as one of the greatest racers, period. To have 7 NASCAR titles, to have 2 Daytona 500 wins, and then to come out and have an Indianapolis 500 win, that would be pretty incredible. So it's going to be it's going to be the most interesting race on television on Sunday. Of course, I'm also excited for the Charlotte 600 on Sunday night, and I believe Monaco GP is in the morning. But Monaco, let's be honest, that sucks. They can't pass that track; it's too small. So it'll be
Yeah,
the free.
Monaco, yeah, Monaco is a more like it's like Monaco. I call the Kentucky Derby of races. It's beautiful, it's prestigious, but it's
I mean, the
it's a,
2-minute horse race is actually pretty cool,
no,
but like
I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
who would watch 5 hours of Derby coverage, but like I
Yeah,
think for the 2 minutes of
yeah.
the actual race.
If Monaco was like a one lap thing, yeah, but 2 hour, yeah, like several hours of there's not much kind of passing and fighting. I feel like it's, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. Helio Castroneves and Tony Canna. Always rooting for my guys. The Brazilian races. I have a I kind of met Tony Canna when the Sao Paulo Indy 300, which I wish he would have come back. It was such a really good event. It was really good. I went twice. I had to go to twice because the first year I went, it rained, so they moved the race to Monday, so I couldn't watch. And then I went a second year, then I finally get to watch. It was such an incredible event.
Oh,
So and I ended up meeting Tony Kana. He was such a charismatic character. So I rooted for him, and of course to Elio Castroneves. When I visit the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I try to replicate the Spider-Man, but they say only Elio Castroneves is allowed to do that.
oh, absolutely. It's gonna be such a fun race. Obviously Scott Dixon, he's starting on the pole here. See where everyone's starting because they have Tony Kanaan, he's starting in the 6th position. He'll be in the 1 car. Let's see, Roman Grosjean, yeah, of F1 fame, he is in the 28 car, starting in the 9th position. Jimmy Johnson in the 48, starting in 12th. Let me see where Helio is starting. We got Santiago Ferrucci in 15th, and Pagano Daly. Alexander Rossi, that's the name to watch. He's starting coming from the 20th position. He's in the number 27, Graham Rahal. Almost had a really scary crash here last year, starting in the 21st position. Marco Andretti in the 23rd position in the 98. Helio Castroneves coming from the 27th position. So he's going to have some work to do, but you have 500 miles to make that up. Juan Pablo Montoya also, with the gray hair, he's going to be in the 30th position starting this race. So there's a lot of big names in this field of 33.
Yeah, I remember Fernando Alonso, participate in the Indy 500, but there's such, really big names, and I hope Elio Castroneves got his 5th win. Is I mean, probably he's not as big as probably it was like 10 years ago, Indy, but I'll be watching. That was gonna be on the public television, so I'll be taking a look and rooting for my guys from the Brazilians, Cana and Elio Castroneves. But that's always fun to watch. It's like the kickoff of the kind of like summer big sports events. Like you have Indy 500, then you have the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think that's a kickoff to all that.
Oh, absolutely. It's good. It's going to be fun. Because IndyCar racing in general has just been really, really good over the past couple of years. It's going to be, I mean, that race should be just incredible on Sunday. That'll be I believe, a noon Eastern start if I'm not
Let me. Yeah,
mistaken.
probably it's gonna be 12:45.
12:45.
Yeah, 12:45. Because in Brazil it's gonna be a 1:45 start.
Yeah, of course, in America, it's on NBC. I'm not sure what channel it is on in Brazil.
In the Cultura TV and in ESPN 4 or Fox, or formerly known as Fox Sports 1, and also in the Star Plus app, which is owned by Disney. But it's going to be on TV Cultura. Band TV Bandeirantes used to broadcast, but now it's on TV Cultura, which is owned by the São Paulo state government. But I'll be definitely. So who do you think is going to win? I'm rooting for Cana and Castro Neves, but who do you think is gonna win?
See, I'm rooting for Jimmy Johnson. Uh, in terms of who I think actually is going to win, I mean, Scott Dixon come from the pole. That he's going to be hard to beat. He's been a legend, Andy Cornell, for years. Really, I think a guy to watch is Alexander Rossi. Rossi could have won that thing last year, but he had a critical pit road mistake that just totally cost him late in that race and prevented him from really being able to challenge. to challenge Castro Neves there at the end. So I think those are two guys to watch: Dixon and Castro Neves. Juan Pablo Montoya you can never count out. Tony Kanaan up there in the sixth position you can't count out. There's a ton of guys. Also, Ryan VK's up there in the front row in the third position. Was running. He ran very well there early on last year in the 500, so that's the guy to watch. I believe I didn't see where Sato started, but he won back to back before last year, so that's a guy you can't miss. It's gonna be there's many guys you could potentially bet on to win this race.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be with my Brazilian flags rooting for, but that's true. You have so many former Formula One racers, which also I think they done really well.
Yeah,
You mentioned Takuma
Roman
Sato.
Grosjean, I would watch him as well. I would watch Grosjean.
But my hot take is gonna be about I kind of mentioned Brazilian segment. I think it's very, very unproductive for the home crowd to boo your players, especially young players, even when they make mistakes. Like Flamengo goalkeeper Hugo, he's a promising goalkeeper, and he couldn't stop the ball and kind of made a mistake in the game, and they won, and the fans every time he touched the ball, they boo. But it's so unproductive. I mean, why in the hell you do that? Probably, I know you have your frustrations and you have your expectations, but you know, you're helping the other team by doing that. You're being an unproductive fan. Like you pay you pay the ticket, which is not cheap in Brazil, to go to the stadium and boo your own player. I mean, that's disgraceful. I mean, that's why I feel like Corinthians fans are probably one of the best fan base in the world because they can be losing 4-0, but the fans don't boo until the game is over. When the game is over, then there's nothing you can do. Then you boo your frustration out. Boo. You can boo your own team, but then while the game is happening, booing your own players is unproductive. I think it is a disservice.
I mean, look, I can't lie. I've done that same thing to the Vols. Particularly, I remember 20 when they were down 24-0 to Georgia in 2017. I remember that, and then I also towards the end of the Georgia State game, I remember booing in those cases as well because those were just two extremely, extremely bad home losses for the Vols. I mean, they ended up losing 41-0 to Georgia, and they ended up losing 30-23 to Georgia State. If I weren't covering in an official capacity against Kentucky in 2020, I probably would have booed Jared Garantano after his second straight pick six, if I'm just being honest. But you're right. We really shouldn't do that. Um, I guess in defense of fans, it depends on what type of loss. I mean, is it because if you're still being entertained while you're losing, then you're less likely to boo. Like I think about Tennessee when they lost to Purdue in the Music City Bowl. I still had a lot of fun at that game. It was up and down, lots of scoring. It was fun to watch. Or even like when they were getting blown up by Georgia at home in November. So I mean, at least we were doing stuff on offense. At least we were scoring some. It kind of kept the crowd somewhat engaged. But man, some of those Jeremy Pruitt teams, those were just not fun teams to watch. And for because you obviously go into Vols games, they're not cheap either. And I almost wonder, if the style of play kind of made it more likely for fans to boo.
Yeah, or also the higher the ticket, the higher the demand of fans, the more likely those fans are going to boo. I
Right.
think there's a good correlation as well. But the crazy thing is Flamengo Wednesday was winning. They were winning. They got a good win. So why you boo your own player when you're winning?
Yeah. Well, actually, I remember going as a kid. I went to a game versus Northern Illinois for the Vols, and we won that game. But people were still booing because they're like, "We're not blowing them out because we only won that game 13-9." So, yeah, I've been there too on that other side of it. And
Yeah.
that makes no sense if you're winning.
Yeah, and I feel like it's so it's even harder in soccer because in football, I mean, it's it's kind of like it's hard. Probably you mentioned probably only the quarterback maybe you can directly boo, but you know and it was a significant moment on that game on Wednesday when after he let after the goal that was scored by Sporting Cristal, Flamengo was winning 2-1, and then Hugo, the goalkeeper, he had when the ball was passed to him, the fans start booing. So it was personal. Was not Flamengo team. Was the keeper. Was the goalkeeper. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's such hard moment for a younger goalkeeper in the biggest brand in soccer in Brazil to be booed in a game where they're winning. That's so cruel to me.
Yeah, it really is. Because if you win, you win. I mean, I understand sometimes you're not playing up to expectations, but winning is the name of the game. So
And I know it all comes back to the big controversy that Flamengo has which is Diego Alves. He's a very good goalkeeper. He was the starter when Flamengo in 2019, but now he's not having good moments. He's the not even the backup. He's a backup to the backup, the third goalkeeper, but he's still a kind of like a leader, a veteran player in that roster that is kind of like in the other side of Paulo Souza. So when fans are kind of taking his side over the coach, because if you're since the team is not doing so well, you blame the coach, and if the coach is unhappy with the player, you're going to take the player side over the coach if the coach is not doing well. So this boo also is kind of cruel because it also has the whole background to you add that background to it.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's so many factors that go into the phenomenon of booing. It's really like you could have a whole like sociological study on booing and why some crowds boo and some don't. It's really it's nothing something that people don't take time to think about. Um, but it is fascinating. The type of group psychosis behavior that it is.
No, and and also another interesting factor that happened in that game, not on the field but off the field, was one of the largest radio stations in Rio de Janeiro, Radio Tupi, had to switch their play-by-play announcer in the middle of the game. So in the 20th minute, Jose Carlos Alojo, he's historical. He's for me is in the top five ever, or probably the top three ever in radio broadcasting in Brazilian soccer. He's one of the best, but he's getting older. Probably he was a little bit sick, so when the game was like in around 20th minute, he said on air, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. My throat's not very well, so now the reporter is going to be calling the game." So the reporters kind of took, turns calling the game until the second half, where like a backup play-by-play announcer, showed up and finished the broadcast. But that was kind of, another interesting moment on that game. I don't I don't know if that ever happened in, or even there was something like that in, sports radio broadcast in America.
I can't think of anything like that's ever happened.
Yeah,
That's an insane situation.
yeah, it was, and it felt so bad because he even though he's like 80 years old, he's still probably calling good, calling the games really good. He's one of the best sports voices in Brazil, but it was just interesting situation, I'll say, and I feel like so bad for him because of course you're in the stadium, you were there to do a job, and you had to leave because you're in no condition. You just feel sad. You just feel kind of, not well. I feel like, yeah, if I was in his position, I would have feel sad.
Yeah, that just it sounds like a very depressing way because when you realize that the sports that you're trying to call don't have the sportsmanship that you want, and you question why am I even here?
Yeah, no, yeah, but yeah. So that was the moments that happened, the interesting moments that happened in this Flamengo game in on Wednesday. But that was my hot take. So that's it for episode 27 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. Thanks,
Yeah, guys,
Nicholas.
actually check us out here. We recorded this on May 25th, 2022. Listen to this at a later date. So for Gustavo Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nicholas Hill in Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. Take care of yourselves. Live life to the fullest. Enjoy Memorial Day weekend if you're in the U.S. I'm not sure if Brazil has some type of holiday weekend this weekend, but obviously we are going to have a free day weekend here. I won't. I will be up early and at a Monday morning producing a broadcast, but we will see you guys next week.
Rhythmically we massage with hip hop mixed up with samba.